I can't see.
All right, so today we're going to build on what we did yesterday. So let's recall what we did yesterday. Yesterday we started with this situation right here where you had x plus 1 times x minus 5 and it has to equal 0. And what we talked about yesterday is for two things to multiply together to equal 0, what has to be true about one of the two things? One of them has to be 0, okay? So in this case right here, the answers would be x equals 5 and negative 1 because if I plug 5 in here for x, that's the way to get this piece to equal 0. And if I plug negative 1 into here for x, that's the way to get that piece to equal 0, right? Remember? Okay, what we're doing today is that same thing, but we're just adding one little simple step. And that is, instead of it starting out like this, it's going to start out like this. So in order for us to solve this problem, we need to get it into this factored form like that. So that's why I gave you those couple of review problems for you to work on so you can refresh your memory on how factoring works. Okay? So we're going to start again with parentheses, parentheses. What goes in the front? An x and an x, because we need it to multiply together to be x squared. And now I need to find two numbers that multiply together to make 15 and add to be 8. What? The king of factoring says plus 3 and plus 5. All right? So now we can solve the problem. Because now what we figured out is for x squared plus 8x plus 15 to equal 0, x plus 3 times x plus 5 has to equal 0. And for that to equal 0, either this has to be 0 or that has to be 0. So what does x have to equal to make this equal to 0? Negative 3. And what does x have to equal to make this equal to 0? Negative 5. And so those are our two answers, which means if I took negative 3 and I squared it, and then I took negative 3 and I multiplied it by 8, and then I added 15, what would I get as my answer? You shouldn't have to be trying to figure that out in your head. You already know the answer. What is it? 0. Okay? The fact that this comes out to be a solution to this equation means that if I take negative 3 and plug it in there for x, my answer will be 0. Okay? Now if you want to check your work, this is a great way to do it. So you can go negative 3 squared is 9. 8 times negative 3 is negative 24. And 9 minus 24 plus 15 does, in fact, equal 0. So you know negative 3 is right. So if it's a quiz or a test or something and you have a little extra time and you want to make sure you do really well because you're always worried about your grade, when you come up with those answers, plug them in, check them, make sure that they work, and then you can tell whether you did something wrong or not. Okay? All right, so let's do another one. Let's go like that. Okay, so to solve this equation, I need to get it written to be parentheses, parentheses equals 0, just like before. So what goes in the front of each parentheses? An m and an m. And then I need two numbers that multiply together to be negative 14 and add together to be negative 5. Negative 7 and positive 2. So if you're ever stuck on a factoring problem, just ask Nate. He'll help you out. Okay? So negative 7 times 2, negative 14. Negative 7 plus 2, negative 5. So my two answers are 7, because 7 minus 7 is 0, and negative 2. Okay? All right. Those are the easy ones. But you guys have done this before. You're good at doing this, so we can make things a little bit trickier. So let's try 4x squared minus 21x equals 18. So there are two things that are different about this problem than the last two that we did. What's one of them? What? What number right there? Right, there's a 4 in front of the x squared. And so that's going to change our factoring. That's going to make things a little bit trickier because now I can't just go x and x. Because x times x is not 4x squared. So I need to do a funky thing to figure that out, which we'll do in a minute. Okay? What's the other thing that's different about this problem? The 18. What did the other ones have instead? 0. What can I do to change this to make it be a 0? How about subtract 18 from both sides? Okay, and the reason we chose that is because 18 minus 18 gives us the 0, which is what we want. Do I subtract the 18 from the 4x squared or from the negative 21x? Neither. Trick question. Yeah, because these are right. Those don't have. That doesn't have an x in there. They're not like terms, so I can't combine it. Okay. So I'm still going to now try to factor this into something times something equals 0, so I can use that 0 thing. The problem is, since the 4 is in front, I don't know if it's going to be 2x and 2x, or it could be 4x and x. And so here's how you do it. And we've done this before, and you loved it. So you're going to be super pumped when I start doing this, and you remember, you're going to go, yes, I love this stuff. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go 4 times negative 18 is negative 72. Okay? 4 times negative 18 is negative 72. Now I need to find two numbers that multiply together to be negative 72 and add together to be negative 21. What? I didn't hear it. 8 and 9, but I can't get a 21 out of an 8 and a 9. This is confusing, yeah. Not 4 and 18, that's true. 3 and... how many times does 3 go in there? 3 and... negative 24. So 3 times negative 4 is negative 72, and 3 minus 24 is negative 21, so those two will work. So when there's a number in front of the x squared, it makes your life significantly more difficult, and I apologize for that, but I didn't write the book. Okay, so now I'm going to rewrite that as, I don't know if you remember this or not, 4x squared plus 3x minus 24x minus 18. Okay, so by multiplying this number and this number together, and then breaking it down into these two, that tells me how to rewrite my equation. Okay. Now I'm going to only look at the first two. What can I factor out of the 4x squared and the 3x? An x. So if I factor an x out of there, what am I left from 4x squared? 4x. Because x times 4x is 4x squared. Plus 3. Waiting. Okay. Let me help you out. Okay. Talk to me. Okay. Do you understand where I got the negative 72? Okay, and you understand where the 3 and the negative 24, okay. So what the 3 and the negative 24 tells me is how to rewrite negative 21x. Because negative 21x is the same as 3x minus 24x, right? Yeah. Because 3x take away 24x's is negative 21x. Okay, so once I have that broken down, now I'm going to look at it as two separate pieces. 4x squared plus 3x and negative 24x minus 18. Okay? So I'm only messing with the 4x squared and the 3x right now. And what I noticed is nothing goes into 4 and 3 evenly. So I can't take out a number. But this has an x squared and this has an x. So since they each have at least an x, I can take an x out. I know that's a lot.
Why isn't there a 3? Why isn't there an x with 3? There's 3.
Because I took it away. Okay, this was 3 times x, but I took the x that was right here and I moved it to the front.
Why did you take it away?
I'll show you in just a second. Now I'm going to do the same thing with this right here, negative 24x and negative 18. What goes into negative 24 and negative 18 evenly? So I can do better than that. What?
6.
Right, negative 6. So I'm going to take out a negative 6. And then since negative 6 times 4x is negative 24x, that puts a 4x there. And negative 6 times positive 3 is negative 18, so that gives me a plus 3 there. Okay? Pretty much. Okay? What I have done right here is I have factored 4x squared minus 21x minus 18 into, wait for it. Are you waiting for it?
Waiting.
4x plus 3, because that's what's in both of the parentheses, times x minus 6, because that's what's on the outside of both the parentheses. Okay? Yeah, we did this a couple weeks ago, and you struggled with it then. Now, I'll try not to assign too many problems that have a number in front of the x squared, but it's something that you're going to have to kind of deal with eventually. Okay? So now I have this broken down into the way that I want. Let's do the easy one first. For x minus 6 to equal 0, what does x have to equal? 6. So one of my answers is 6 because 6 minus 6 is 0. For 4x plus 3 to equal 0, that's a little trickier, so I'm going to solve that on the side. 4x plus 3 equals 0. What are the two steps I do to solve that equation? Subtract 3. So those cancel and 4x equals negative 3. And then divide by 4. So what's my other answer for x? Negative 3/4. Okay? So that one is a lot. Okay? That one is a lot. And I understand that that's confusing. But hopefully at the very least you'll be able to, you can hang on to these right here. When there's no number in front, okay, I'm just going to put an m and an m in front, and then I need two numbers that multiply together to be this, add to be that. And if you can't figure out what those are, what do? You ask Nate, because he knows. Okay? He's got it. All right?
Can you do an easy one?
Yeah, like I said, I'll try to keep away from a lot of those with the numbers in front. I'm sure you do.
That's 11 problems.
That's not very many.